Microphone?
I did it virtually. And so it was just, you were scrolling and there would just be a link underneath. So easy. I need to go do the final one so that I actually get my CEUs. Well, and next week we can access them remotely, or is this, it's this week, starting Wednesday.
The stream going okay?
I think so.
Ah, you're set?
Yeah. So far. We did have some trouble. Les Ben's a walker.
He was a walker. Yeah, I was actually monitoring the stream a few times, and I'm like, yeah, he's not there, but I can hear him, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. I moved it a couple of times, but I didn't want to make everybody sick and try to follow him. So I would wait till he was staying still and then move it.
There's no one's judgment.
He was hiding over there in the corner for a while.
He was like, I can't get you on the screen. Jamie, there is no one's judgment I would trust more than your own. So thank you for doing it.
Something else. I was just reversed it of some sort, right? I would think there would be a bigger deal than
All right, welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. So we have our wonderful Jennie Reese presenting today. Everybody knows our wonderful Jennie. She's been here for 24 years. And I think a lot of you know her from the Sub for Santa program. So thank you for all of your work with that. She's going to be presenting on improving the customer experience. I'm just going to go ahead and hand this over. A lot of you will see a little flyer near your seat with a QR code. So you may want to grab that if you want to participate in some of the interactive portions. And if you haven't already, make sure you've checked in back with Lori. We've all got our masks on. Good job. And if anyone has any symptoms, you'll just want to step out and check in with your manager. All right.
Okay, so I'm sure that there are a few of you here that don't know me. For those of you that don't, I work in our supported housing department, which is located at our South Campus building in Provo. And I have been at Wasatch forever, literally, since I was 17 years old. And I grew up here and I will retire here. So I have worked in a lot of different departments throughout the center. And I think that's a good thing because I've been able to see a lot of different processes. Of course, some of them are ancient that we don't use anymore, but some of the things still have followed us through the years. And so I think knowing a little bit about each of the programs is really helpful when it comes to customer service. So when I first started at Wasatch, I worked in administration. I was what we called a summer sweat worker. And at the time, they had employees' children come and work during the summer, and they literally called us sweat workers. And so I started that way. My mom was working in HR at the time. And so I started out there. And then I finished high school early. And so I'd get off of school halfway through the day and I'd come into Wasatch. And I'd help out in records. And then eventually it kind of shifted over to where they needed a little bit of help here and a little bit, though. I was the original floater secretary. Like literally you float around, and now Mary is. So with that, I worked in our intake office. It was called Assessment and Utilization Review at the time. And so we did intakes there, and then it was also our crisis unit, which at the time was only 3 people. So we have grown a ton since then, but I got to see a little bit about how the crisis process worked. And I'd see customers from start to finish almost, or, throughout the whole process. And so I got to know them, and then I got married right out of high school and decided it was time for more of a big girl job. And a position at our Lakeview program came open. And so I went over there, and I was there for quite a while. I would say probably 12 years. And then I went to work in administration as an assistant there. And I did that for a couple years. I call it my little 2-year mission, and decided that I really enjoyed working with the customers. I loved working with the clients. And I felt like I needed to get back to that, to the grassroots of it, in the trenches, as we say. And I really enjoy working with them. And so I went back, and shortly after, Lakeview was dissolved, and they had us move over to the South Campus. That's where I am now. And I do a lot with our housing department, and then also work in Mountain Peaks. So with that comes a lot of experience. If you'll notice, I didn't mention any education in there other than high school. I took about 6 months of college and just got to work. And so that is where all of my education came from, was working in Wasatch. Good or bad, take it or leave it. It is what it is. So that's where we're starting today. If all of you wouldn't mind going, so I piggybacked onto my brother's Nearpod link through the school. So you'll see it's for Mr. Gilbert. You're on the right one. So you just put this code in. And if anybody has any troubles with getting into that, just raise your hand and I'll help guide you through. Okay. And this is kind of a new program to me, so we're just gonna go with it here. So today we're gonna be learning about improving our customer experience. And I really hope, I'm looking and I see some CTAs here, and that makes me excited because I'm sorry for those of you that are not CTAs. This is geared towards our front end staff, HSW, CTAs, those that kind of are the first contact for our clients. Now, if you're not, you're still going to get something out of it today, but maybe bring this back to your CTAs. So first, let's see. So first we need to identify who our customers are. And you're going to notice that throughout the presentation, I'm not calling them clients. When we call them clients, I think it changes our mindset. I'm going to take a step back for a second. So a couple years ago, Wasatch came out and said, we're not going to call our front-end staff secretaries anymore. You're going to be known as care team assistants. Does anybody know why they did that?
Jennie,
Yes.
sorry, can we go back to the code real quick?
Oh.
Never mind, it's at the top of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Sorry.
So, Jürgen, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Tell me, would you mind just sharing with us why you chose to call us care team assistants?
Well, we just thought that it describes better your actual role, that you are actually an essential part of the care team. And more often than not, you're the very first face or voice that our customers interact with. So you really are, to a large extent, responsible, and I mean it in a positive way, for our face to the public and our PR and how we are perceived.
Okay, thank you. So I have to admit, when I heard that, I thought, well, I'm still a secretary. and so when I introduce myself, I say I'm a CTA/secretary because I still feel like one. But as I got thinking about that, as I was preparing for this, I thought, I am more of a care team assistant. My job is to take care of people as they come in our doors. And so in the same thought, I was like, well, I don't really want to be calling them our clients anymore, because my mindset when they're our client or our patient is that maybe they're beneath us or something, not really, but kind of along those lines, where a customer we think about as like our bread and butter for our company, right? There's a quote here that says, customers are the reason our business exists. Keeping those customers happy means being responsive to their needs. So I think that's really true. Even though a lot of them, we're the place they have to go, they could still choose not to go anywhere. And therefore we wouldn't have a job. And so they are the reason why we have a business. And I think we need to hold ourselves in higher regards too, of we care about people. And so we're going to take care of them properly. So we're going back there. Okay, so in that sense, our customers aren't just our clients, but they're also family members. We have a lot of family members that come in that advocate for their loved one. We also have religious leaders. I know in Mountain Peaks we get calls from bishops or clergy all of the time asking for help. Our community partners, the policing departments that we work with throughout the center, just now knowing the police officers that were here, it helps if we know them. The hospitals. I have a lady that calls me from Utah Valley Hospital, and I feel like we're best friends, and I've never met her once. And I'm like, Brooke and I were talking the other day, and we're like, we just want to go out to lunch with her. We don't know her, but she's awesome. So she's our customer. Other agencies. And then I think we also forget that we are each other's customers within Wasatch. My case managers and therapists, they are my customers. My job is to help take care of them. Dave's job is to help take care of me. I'm his customer. So, and then other CTAs. And I think we forget this, that I don't know everything that happens in every department. Sheila doesn't know what happens. And so if we get a call from somewhere that we don't know, we need to be able to help each other and provide that customer service to each other. Okay, so next, and this is where the code is going to work in. This is a collaboration board, and I want to take a minute and just in a couple words, I want you to describe what you think the role of a care team assistant is in Wasatch. Okay, so we will hide your names. Okay, so if you'll just take a minute, in 1 to 2 words, write down what you think you want out of our care team assistants, HSWs, anybody who's providing customer support in our center. So working face-to-face with the public, okay? Having consideration and direction. So I think that's a big thing where I was talking about respecting. Caring and assisting, being a good listener. Sometimes it's not just knowing everything you're talking about, it's taking the time, caring about what they're saying. Kindness to follow the call through to the end, absolutely. Nobody likes just the drop call, right? Greeting and welcoming our customers, they're the backbone, absolutely. Kind of the buck starts there and proceeds from there. A representative of Wasatch, absolutely. Let's see if I can get to these others. I like that, a first responder. You know, a lot of times you think about that in medical ways, but we're first responders to Wasatch. We kind of triage things and help move them along through the process. Being friendly, coordinating the care for the clients, and then communication again. So I think one of the big ones is communication. And we have to be able to communicate in order to provide good customer service. Oh, a traffic director, for sure. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I did a little research project. It reminded me a lot of doing my kids' science projects or working with my kids on their science projects. And I had a theory, and I decided I want to see what our customers would say. And so for the last 2 months, I have been running a report with permission to poll basically our new intakes. So for every intake that came in March and April, I kind of weeded a few out, but for all of them that came in, I sent them an email if they provided an email to us. And I contacted them and asked them to fill out a short survey regarding their first experience with us. Now, I went into it with a theory, thinking that people, would probably be a little frustrated with the way we do it, because I know I get a little frustrated with it. But I was pleasantly surprised. So in total, I polled 200 people. Now, I definitely didn't get that much response, but we're gonna go with it. So the first question was, how easy was it to schedule your appointment? And 78% of them thought that it was fairly easy to get in for their first time appointment. 13% thought it was difficult. And so I want to think about that. What can we do to raise that percentage? What can we do to make it less difficult and easier for people to come in? Anybody have suggestions? Diane.
We need more providers.
Okay, more providers. Did anybody read Brian's article in the newsletter this month? Okay, well, if you didn't, he mentioned that yeah, we do need more providers, but it's not always we're not always fiscally able to get more providers. So what are some things we can do if we don't have more providers? So think about that one. We're gonna go back to that. The second question was, how knowledgeable would you say the care team assistant was, the one that helped them? And 87% thought that they were fairly knowledgeable about what they asked. And so then I thought, I kind of want to do a poll with the CTAs. I didn't do it, but now's your chance to kind of tell me, if you are CTA or front end, do you feel like you have the knowledge to be able to answer calls and guide people through the process of getting in? I'm seeing head nods, yeah.
I think with the addition of our SEDS team, that I could be a little more knowledgeable, and with other departments. I've only been here with a member of Wasatch for 2.5 years, but I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of find out what those things are all about, what different areas are all about, not just within Wasatch, but more specifically within the community resources available to us. As I work with the watch team and the jail transition team, what other resources do we have while we're waiting to get folks into housing, while we're waiting to get folks into CCS?
So what are some ways that we could brainstorm to accommodate that? You know, I feel the same way, and I'm guessing a few other CTAs do too, I want to know more about the other programs that Wasatch offers. What are ways that we can facilitate that? I kind of thought, you know, cross-training. Do more cross-training. Right now, we're training Mary as a floater secretary, but man, it sure would be nice to be able to have Jill come over and learn what is happening in supported housing, or for me to go over and learn what Jill does. Because honestly, I really don't know. I think she does intakes, but no, she doesn't. That was a long time ago. So, you know, it would be nice to have that. And so maybe, you know, as our administrative team is thinking of ways to help improve that, we can implement some of those things. Any other ideas? Shannon, anything you would like to do to learn resources better?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot.
email groups where we all just chip in resource ideas.
Yeah.
I like when a case manager email will go out and several people will reply all.
Yeah.
So we know of new ideas.
Helpful tips.
Yeah.
Having Mary come over, I have learned a couple new tips each time. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. So yeah, it's nice. Diane.
Well, I think sometimes, like I've been to a few other department staff meetings just to kind of give a little bit of background about what my department does and kind of what we offer and how to do a referral there and things like that. And I think we could do some of that where we have a representative go to another department staff meeting to help them kind of do a Q&A and say, hey, yeah, let me explain a little bit about what we do so that they can do a little bit more familiar with that for each of the departments.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback off of them. So I've worked kind of as a semi-floater, and I worked at case management as the secretary there, and I worked at the front end of West Park. And all of the different things and resources that I've learned from being over at case management and going to the therapist staff meetings to take notes for Dean, and going to the case management meetings, and then also going to Heber, learning about the groups that you there, I covered 1 day or 2 days over at Mountain Peaks and I learned a bunch of different things that I didn't know about that I now utilize in my phone calls. So just Friday, I had a guy call and ask about the Prime for Life meeting. And if it was anybody else at West Park, they wouldn't have known what the heck that was. But I knew what it was because I worked at Heber, and also I happened to be the person that their Zoom account uses. Like they use mine.
Mhm.
So I knew that, and I was like, okay, I think you're talking about Adriana. I think it's Adriana you need to talk about. You need to talk to. He's like, I don't think so. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it is. It's Prime for Life is up in Heber, it's Adriana. And it ended up being great, but I think it is very important for more CTAs to do that cross training. I think that would be really, really helpful in the long run, because then we won't be saying, well, I don't know, let me get back to you a lot less.
Great, thank you. I absolutely agree, and I think, any managers that are here, take into account, you can ask for your CTAs to go, I am a big fan of field trips. I took Mary around her first day with us, and we spent a good couple of hours just in the car and talking about where we were going, what they do, and then walking in and saying hello. And it helps to be able to visualize it.
But I think my team would have a hard time with me leaving. Not that it's perfect, but the front desk, several places, to my understanding, you have more than one CTA, correct? So we have one CTA. So in that regard, it might be nice just to have a list of who the CTAs are. Like, I never know who I'm getting.
Oh.
Who's at the front desk at West Park, or who works Clubhouse, or who's working at that. If we could have maybe a list of the CTAs, and then I feel like if I had a question about your program, then you're the first one that I'm going to go to. So I could just call you up and say, hey, how are you handling this? Or what about that referral that you sent over? I'd really like to help that client out. Or just kind of communicate between. I think maybe having a list of the CTAs would be really helpful for me personally.
Okay. And I have a suggestion for you. If you want to go around and tour other places, once Mary gets trained, schedule her to be over there for a time so that you can go do those things.
She's great. We've had
Yeah. Field trips are great. It makes the day go by fast too. So, okay. So then I have, let's see. Okay. So I forgot that I had these other slides here. Okay. So then the next question was, how do you feel the CTA cared about you and listened to your needs while you were on the phone with them? And the majority of them felt like they were cared about. Sometimes, and I know I'm guilty of this, I've got several phones ringing. I've got somebody in front of me. I have case managers calling me on my cell phone. And I have somebody on the phone that just wants to talk. And I'm like, okay, all right. Okay, I gotta go. Where I need to maybe just calm down and the other people will call back. and that's okay. As long as you listen to your voicemails and pick those up. But giving the person that you're talking to the time that they need. Now, there's balance, right? So I have a client, calls me pretty much every day, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a day, and tells me a joke. And I absolutely love it. It's great. But when I have 4 phones ringing and people in front of me, then that joke isn't so funny anymore. And so maybe setting some limits with those client or customers that take up and monopolize our time. It's okay to set limits with them. And that's one thing when I train new CTAs, that's one of my training points. It's okay to set limits. They need it. It's a lot like with my kids. They know how far they can go with me, and then it's time to be done. And it doesn't mean that I don't like them when I set limits. It just means that my time is important, and they are too, but sometimes we have to move on. So let's move on. Okay, so then the next question, how would you rate your overall satisfaction with the service you received? Went down a little bit, but still great. Most of them were extremely satisfied. So I kind of want to focus on that for a second. That kind of went with my open-ended questions of, tell us specifically what we could have done a little bit better. And there were a few, that mentioned specific people. A lot of them talked about not just their experience with the front-end staff, but like the clinical staff that they met with. And most of the feedback was very positive. A couple of them that I want to point out, I don't recall being told that the initial appointment was 2 hours. So, maybe that's something in our conversation of, okay, be prepared to spend a half hour on paperwork and an hour or more with a therapist. I know when I go to a doctor's office, I like to be able to gauge how much time I'm going to be there. And so we could give that consideration to our customers as well. I got a couple comments of the walk-in part was terrible. Some of them want appointments. And so, we need to do what we can to accommodate that. We also have to take care of our business side of things too. But being open to thinking outside of the box sometimes is okay. And I think as a CTA, it's hard sometimes to feel empowered because you have to make quick decisions before you can, Jamie is not there all the time, Dave's not there all the time. And so I have to feel empowered to make a decision sometimes. And, I think, okay, we've heard a lot, at least I have heard a lot lately of what is in the best interest of the client. And so in my mind, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, that is in their best interest. They say that they sleep all day because their meds make them tired and they can't get up for an 8 a.m. appointment. So I'm going to think outside of the box and schedule them with somebody at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's okay. And be able to have the backup on that. And I would guess that every single manager would back us up if it came to that. Waiting less time for a follow-up appointment. That goes along with what we were talking about earlier of we need more providers. I am amazed when I look at some of the schedules for our clinicians. They're 2, almost 3 months booked out. When it's hard to tell somebody who is hurting that I'm sorry, I don't have an appointment for you until June. How do you do that nicely? How do you tell somebody that?
Well, what I started to do, my clinic is probably a little smaller than some, but actually what I found is working really well with our clientele is that I've been trying to I start making my phone calls the morning of and give reminder calls, and undoubtedly there's 3 or 4 or 5 cancellations where I feel I can reach out to that therapist and say, hey, you had a cancellation too. Is there anybody that you want to put in? Is there anybody we can move up? Can you take a look at your schedule? And we've been able to fill up our schedules and increase the productivity of our team a little bit more just by doing that.
Great.
Just by doing that first thing.
Great.
Sometimes that's helpful. I realize that's not a good solution for everybody, but I think, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's working a little bit better for our team.
It's fantastic, actually. It's been awesome too. It's really helpful because then there's been a few clients that I was concerned about. It's like, hey, can you call and get them in, see if they'll come in a little bit early, and they're happy to jump in and get in sooner if they're on the way out. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. I know that, Brooke really tries to do that at Mountain Peaks. And takes ownership of the clinician's schedule. And, maybe in the bigger clinics, assigning a CTA to a couple certain clinicians that at the beginning of the day, they look at it and, if it looks like it's not going to be full or something, start calling some of those people that are booked out, trying to get them in sooner. Just, again, thinking outside of the box. How can we get more people flowing through to get them helped? I wish Chris was here. I don't see her. But I love the comment about Chris. She's so caring. She isn't too busy chatting to notice me standing there wanting to ask a question. Her eye contact is good. I love that. Eye contact. Her eye contact is good. Her tone doesn't convey boredom. Her communication is good. She uses good verbal cues to let me know what she's doing on her computer. I never feel like serving me is boring or annoying to her. I love that comment. Because how many times are we at our computer, doing our thing, and the client's like, am I done? And it's like, oh, wait, hold on, I'm still looking. Junction is super slow today. Just maintaining good eye contact. Dr. Reyes at the beginning said names matter. Absolutely. When somebody walks in our door, we look up and we're like, hi, John. How are you today? Even if he's not coming to our desk, he may be going into the nurses. It still makes him happy to have his name said and be acknowledged. He's a person walking in our door and we're happy to have him there. So, just even if you don't know their name, consider who they are and say, hello, how are you today? So super easy. The front desk staff was welcoming the moment we walked in the door. That's great. Somebody mentioned that it was difficult to contact the office during business hours. Again, I don't know which offices these are, so they could be anywhere throughout the center. Somebody liked being able to change their appointment to Zoom on the same day. That's great when we can accommodate it. Can we always? No, sometimes they call like 20 minutes before and are like, I want to set it up with Zoom. And, we can try, but it may not always happen. So this person, it worked out great for them. Okay. So then that brought me to my next thing, and I'm kind of excited about this. This is something that has been kind of percolating in my brain for a year or two. And I just didn't know how to make it happen. And so when I was asked to do this presentation, I was like, here's my opportunity. So I went to Dorian and I asked him, I'm like, can I do a mystery shopper? So I had to explain to him what I was thinking. And, probably you have, that's not good. Hold on.
We're seeing it fine now, Jennie.
Oh, good. Okay. So you've all heard about the secret shopper that goes in, oh no. This was my worst fear, just so you guys all know, is not having the technology work. I don't know, I can just translate it. It's not picking it up. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to try and multitask here. Doesn't work very good with my brain anymore. Okay, so the mystery shopper, it goes out into a store and they purchase an item. And then they report back to the management how that process went. And so with permission, and I understand Jurgen gave his seal of approval as well, I contacted, I had Phil, our therapist at Mountain Peaks, contact each of our family clinics and do a little rehearsed call. So the call, I had actually received this call from a parent. Mom was living down in St. George. Her son was living up here, and he was 25 years old, going to be turning 26 soon, which means he wouldn't have her insurance anymore. And I'm trying to think of what else. He didn't mention that he was suicidal, but he was flunking out of his classes in school. Just felt like he couldn't go on anymore. And it was at the point where she felt like he was suicidal, but not saying those words. And so through the course of our call, I think I probably spent 20, 25 minutes on the phone with her about this. And I thought, oh, thank you. I thought, man, this would be a good one to ask everybody. And so it is projected. I just have to move it over, he said. But no. Okay. And then I think it's this session thing here. So Phil, I gave him the script that I went through, and Phil called each of the family clinics and went through the script. The first two he called, just gonna pull up the May 10th. And you can exit out. Yeah, okay. So, thank you so much. Yay! Jeremiah saved my bacon more than one time. Okay, so all of the calls, they did exceptionally well. So a couple of the things that I wanted to make sure that the CTA that answered the phone addressed was, given that situation, what would you guys think they would need to talk about? What information would we want to give her? Number one would be the Utah crisis line, right? Because she mentioned she thinks that he's suicidal, not talking about it. Because I didn't have an appointment to give him for 2 more weeks. And I didn't want to say, okay, well, I'm really sorry that your son's not doing well, but we'll see him in 2 weeks. I wanted them to have something in the interim. And so we talked about the crisis line and how that works with the area codes and everything. And she appreciated that information, was going to pass that on to him. We also talked about the receiving center. He lives up here in Provo. Told him he could go visit the receiving center. So those are some things that I was hoping to hear in these phone calls. Now, again, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to. I was a little hesitant. Oh, man. Okay, we're going to play this while we can. I have permission to play this. When I heard this one, I was like, oh, yes, this is great. We're doing so good. So I asked her permission if I could share it, and she was really excited for me too. So here we go.
Yeah, I have a son that is currently at BYU. He's really not doing well. I don't think he's been going to class at all. And some of the things he said has made me really worried that that he is suicidal or maybe. And so we're just really worried about him, and we're wondering if we could get him in to see someone. Yeah. Let me check something. Do you know if he has insurance coverage or not? Yeah, this was the one thing that I was worried about. So he's 25 and he's about to turn 26, so he'll get off my insurance this month. Actually, he is turning 26. So that's fine because if he's gonna be without insurance, we can see him. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That is so great. So yeah, we can see him even if he's taken, even if he doesn't have insurance, because we have a grant in place that can cover the first couple of sessions. Okay. My question is, let me see, have you, because there's a counseling center at BYU, there's a student counseling center. Yeah. Have you encouraged him to maybe seek that out? Does he know about it? Yeah, what he said is that there's a really long wait to get in there, and I don't, yeah, and. Okay. Do you guys, I didn't check your number when you called, do you guys have a Utah area code 35 or 801? Well, I don't, but he does. He does, okay. Let me give you a phone number for him to call. Okay. It's the Utah Crisis Line. Okay. And it routes based on area code. And so that's why we want him to call, because then it'll be a Utah Crisis worker. Okay. And so what he can do is he can talk with them at any time of day or night. Okay. And then if ever necessary, they can deploy a mobile crisis outreach team to him so they can actually go to him and see him. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Can I get the number for that? Of course, so it's going to be 1-800. Okay, 1-800. 273. 8255. Okay, great. And then in terms of times, I think I can get him to go if we have a set time. I can get him there. What insurance is he covered by right now? Right now, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield just till, I don't know if the birthday specifically matters, but it's the 27th. No, and he'll be covered through the end of the month. What I would recommend doing also is calling our Mountain Peaks Clinic. Okay. Because they accept Blue Cross Blue Shield. All right. Just to see if they have any openings before the end of the month to at least get him started. Okay. Because once he becomes uninsured, we can just transfer him to one of our outpatient clinics, one of our other family clinics that has the grant and takes Medicaid. Okay. Okay. So their phone number is 801. Okay, 801. 960. 1620. Okay. So let them know that you know he's going to be losing at the end of the month, but you want to try and get at least the assessment done before the month ends, so that way whenever it does end, he can just be transferred over to one of the family clinics. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Okay. I just have to say, she did awesome. It was awesome. That was Shannon. Way to go. Okay. No.
It needs a second. It just needs a second.
Okay, now. Okay. We'll talk loud. Okay. Here, I'll let you mess with that one. Okay, so she did amazing. I was so impressed with everything that she brought up. Offering different choices. When we call anywhere, we want choices, right? So she gave the choice of, okay, this is what we can offer, but these are some other places that may be able to help as well. She talked about the crisis line, talked about the insurance, and then grants that were available to help him as well. And there were a couple of departments that we called where they even offered to have him meet with a case manager to apply for Medicaid. And so I was really pleased with that. And also, I think kudos to Phil. He did some great acting there. So I was really happy with how that turned out. Okay, so then our next thing is, second part of this is, what image do we want to create at Wasatch Behavioral Health? So we're going to go through these, and fine. Okay. So when you think about these places, what image do you think of with Facebook? Are you like, yeah, or eh?
Did you intentionally do thumbs up, thumbs down because it was Facebook?
Yeah. Todd's back there going, yeah. Yeah, it can be this, right? Okay. This, you can't see it very well, but it's United Airlines. Anything Disney, yeah. Unless you're there with your kids, right? Then it's, Starbucks. Yeah, absolutely. Costco, what kind of image do they have? They have a good image. Amazon, good image. Comcast, oh my gosh. Nike, they've got a good image. Qualtrics, that's a newer one to us, but right now they're building their image, right? Is it good or bad? Fairly good right now. This one, anybody know what that is? Ancestry. I think in the world right now they have a good image. Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. You know, right? You can't go there and not hear in your head, my pleasure. So, and Google. I miss Google up there. You know, whatever. So, now Wasatch. What do we think of? Good, bad, yeah. What would our clients, our customers say?
They would say this.
A lot of them would say this. Some of them would say this. Some of them they're very unhappy with this, would say this. But for the most part, I think we have a good image. But do we want to be known? I tried to find pictures, but do we want to be known as the community behavioral health provider that people have to go to? Or do we want to be known as the leader in behavioral health care in Utah County?
Can I try to explain?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So about, I'd say probably close to 8 years ago, close to when I started working at Wasatch, I was just outside doing my own thing, like Saturday doing a thing with a group, and this guy was there teaching a course, and I told him where I worked, and said, what do people think about their services? And at the time, I was really shocked by his questions. The first thoughts that came to mind were, people don't tell me what they think. They have to come here. They don't get a choice. We're the only option. What is he talking about? And he knew that. I just said, it really depends on the person. I really get a lot of feedback. I just work with the client I'm trying to help them. They don't really tell me like yes or no, I like this or I don't like this. He said, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I went to, he said, another place, and he shared his experience of being on the customer side of another county, I don't know what they're called, but not within what we serve areas and negative experiences. And the conversation was fine, but it really made me reflect on these things you're talking about. Like, I've come over the years to realize, like, of course, we're not the only option. We're not, they don't have to do anything, and it's really helped bring up. I think that was a really good, kickoff for me to kind of reflect on that question, because I didn't know where it was coming from, and then, from the customer's perspective, Anyway, I just really appreciate that question, really gave me some insight.
Yeah, thank you. So I think more and more we have to be asking ourselves this question, because anymore we're not the only place that they go. Now with the expansion Medicaid, it's fee for service. And if you don't understand what that entails, that means they can take their Medicaid and they can go anywhere. They don't have to come to Wasatch. We want them to. We want them to choose to come to us. And so that starts here with creating the image that we want to portray to people. And we want them to come to us. And so I think our management is definitely very well aware of the long wait times to get in for follow-up appointments. And they're doing their best to try and find solutions to that. But then as they're doing that part, then we need to be doing our part as well. Okay, so again, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute, just writing down what you yourself could do to help create the image of the Wasatch Behavioral Health is the leader in behavioral health in Utah County. What can you yourself do? Okay, smile, show positivity. Say yes instead of no. Oops, I forgot to take off. No, Dave must have just said that he wanted his name to be on there. He wanted me to pick on him. I did choose hide names. Thought. Okay, there we go. Give good service. Be compassionate. Follow through with requests. Follow through with what you say you're going to, number one. So somebody on one of the other slides mentioned follow through until the end. So are we going to know everything that comes our way? Absolutely not. I mean, I've worked here 24 years and there's still new stuff to me every day. I probably wouldn't be able to give very much information about Watch or any of our sub-programs. But I can still take down a name and phone number and tell them, okay, you know what? Let me find out the answer to this and I'll give you a call back. Or I will have that person call you back. And then I follow up with it. That's just quality care. And we all need to be willing to do that in any role that we play in Wasatch. It's okay not to know something, but it's not okay not to do anything about it. Have empathy. Being more knowledgeable about insurances and programs that are offered to better help the customer. It lets them know that we know what we're talking about. You can't be a leader in something if you don't know what you're doing. Advocate for them. Give clear, accurate information. One thing, when I'm talking to families that are just starting out with a mental illness in their adult child, they call a lot of times the housing part because they want to know where their child can go. And they don't have Medicaid, they don't have Social Security, and those are hard processes. Even for us, our case managers spent hours on the phone waiting for somebody at DWS to answer. And I don't want to just say, okay, you know what, call DWS and they'll help you get on Medicaid. I prepare them. I let them know, do this when you have a time to sit down and spend time on it. Because it takes time. Dave says this about me, that one of the things that I have done since I can remember, I like to put myself in their shoes. And that's empathizing, really. But I think, okay, if this was my child or my loved one, what would I want that person on the other line to be doing? What would I want them to how would I want them to treat me? And that's how I'm going to treat them. Just like they're somebody that I care about. And sometimes I even let them know, if this was my child, this is the route I would take. This is what you should do. So, and I give them different options too. Listen, take time to listen to people. Let's see. Be a good team player in your department. We have tribal barriers sometimes. Sometimes they're worse than others. I think right now we're doing pretty good, but there is a little bit of that goes on at Wasatch. And we need to remember we're all on the same team. Even though our departments seem like their own team, everybody at Wasatch is on the same team. No other CTA got up this morning and said, you know what, I'm going to make Jennie's life miserable today. And I guarantee I didn't wake up thinking the same about that. I don't know if he's in here, but there was a CT over at West Park that transferred a call to me the other day. And I thought, oh, he doesn't like me anymore. Because he transferred a call to me that he hadn't really taken time to listen to what they really needed. And it was very evident when the call got to me. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna just call him back and use this as a teaching moment, because maybe he doesn't know. So I hope he took it okay, but I think we have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable sometimes too. If we're not challenging each other, we're not going to grow. And so I would hope that if anybody out there, if I end up calling you one day saying, hey, you did this wrong, but in nicer words, then you would take that as, I'm just trying to help you. And I would hope that somebody would do the same for me. If I gave wrong information or didn't follow through on something, I would hope to get called on it too and help me grow and learn in the process. So that's how we become the leaders. We take the time, we learn. Yes.
In addition to taking the time, what goes along with that too is my thing's not working, or I would put it up there.
You're okay.
But I think it's really important that we can think about ourselves as peacemakers, and typically that means, breaking up situations. But to me, a peacemaker is being able to bring that calm to the situation, whether it's our team who's stressed or whether it's a client in trauma. It's coming over. We're the first ones that they come to. We're the first ones that they see. We're gonna get them when they're high on the list. We were out in the parking lot the other day, and Jared made it available to me to go volunteer when we were giving injections to the homeless out in our parking lot. And way across the parking lot, I hear, Leanne, help! I need help! And he came over to me, and we were able to talk, and we were able to de-escalate a little bit, and then get him in until his care team could come to him. But I think about that right now, and it makes me tear up a little bit. If they can come to us and know that they're going to get helped, however that is, then we've made a connection. I think that connection is important to make right from the very first visit. Mm-hmm. To go around the desk and explain the intake paperwork to them, to shake their hand and ask their name, introduce yourself. I had a gentleman who said, that is the first time someone has touched my hand in 6 months. Wow. So I think it's really important, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but to somehow find a way to connect with every person that comes to your desk, whether it's your team member or whether it's your client. They become attached.
Mhm.
I'm attached to so many. My husband's afraid I'm gonna bring people home soon. He's probably right. If he wasn't there, we'd probably have a basement full, but.
Yeah. Well, I have a similar story with a gentleman that we have at our office. He came to us and he just was so quiet. He didn't talk to anybody. And honestly, it got a little bit scary. And one day we were sitting there just waiting for his money to get there. And I decided to engage him a little bit. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? I'm good. I'm like, so I don't know much about you. And he opened up. He gave me basically his whole life history. He told me why he never wanted to move on from his current housing situation because he didn't feel safe. He'd been homeless and he didn't want to be homeless again. And so he was going to stay there forever. And told me that he was a chef working before his mental illness hit. He was a chef working in a fancy resort in Colorado. And it really made me see him in a different light of, man, he's a person. And he did some incredible things when he was well. And since then, we've formed that connection. And I think of him as one of my friends now. We see each other and he's always there to say hello. And it kind of opened things up to where now his treatment team knew a little bit more about him as I was sharing his experiences with them. And then it turned into us badgering him for the next 2 years, encouraging him to move on to another housing situation where he'd be more independent. And he came into me the other day and he's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I just played a small little part in that just by engaging him, connecting with him. But it's so important. Even, as frontline staff, we can do that. We're not the clinicians, but we can do that. Okay, just real quick, I want to do a poll. When you're looking for a new healthcare provider, what is the main factor you look for? Let's see if I can pull that up a little further. Is it insurance costs, word of mouth, location? Okay, so looks like the insurance. We first look, do they take our insurance? Okay, and then next it's word of mouth. And that's what I really wanted to get to. We are in a day and age of social activity where things are posted and Google reviews. And whether you know it or not, each department has a Google review. And if you look at it, there are several years old in some of our departments. And these are too small to see on here. You may be able to see them better on your phones. But there's some mixed with good and bad. And each department, oh goodness. Let's see. So I put down the Google reviews for each department. And you can just go in and Google Wasatch Behavioral Health, Provo Family Clinic, and it'll pull that up. So in the last few minutes, I just want to go over these. And if you're looking, you're seeing that, there's one from 5 months ago, but we're looking at 2-3 years ago. Yes. Oh, okay. There's, 2-3 years ago again. And one thing that we identified, Mountain Peaks is a little bit different, where we're kind of more of a consumer-driven department where insurance is, they'll call us because we take their insurance. And so we had a couple bad reviews a few years ago. One of them was, man, that sure isn't a creepy location. It's right by the cemetery and it's really dark. And that one stayed on there forever and ever. And we didn't want that on there anymore, or we didn't want that to be our main review. So Brooke kind of thought, well, what can we do? So I'm gonna spotlight her for a second. She created this QR code, and we have this just a little paper, laminated paper that we keep on our calendar. And then she also, after their appointments, she emails them and says, if you were pleased with your services, would you mind filling out a Google review for us? And this link, this QR code, takes them straight to their Google account. They sign in, and it takes them straight to our page, the Mountain Peaks page. And just by doing that, man, you started that 3 months ago? 4 months ago? Yeah, it wasn't very long ago. Oops. Oh gosh, go back. It's not. How to get over there to that one.
Scroll down.
I did.
Oh.
Why isn't it going over there? Anyway, if we were able to look at that, you'll see that I think we have 18 Google reviews that are within the last year at Mountain Peaks. And I know that Chad has asked about how to do that up in Heber. It has been a huge success for us. So, if one CTA from each department just kind of took that on of, would you mind leaving us a Google review? Because if I go to a new place, I get on, I look at Google and think, it doesn't look so great. I don't think I want to go there. So they really matter. So take those into account. Be looking at them, see what, think creatively. And if you need help, we know how to do it. We can create the QR code. I'm sure Jeremiah or somebody would help create a QR code as well. But it just is very helpful and helps create a good image for us. So just in conclusion, we all play an important role at Wasatch. And whether or not we're CTA up to Jurgen, we can all contribute to providing good customer service, not just good, but excellent, and helping to create a good, healthy image of Wasatch Behavioral Health. It's going to be really important for us in the upcoming years. And we've seen what it's already done. We've grown, we're well known in the community. We want to keep it that way. And so keep up the good work. Everybody's doing a good job. Think outside of the box and remember to connect with people and just treat others how you would want to be treated. So I thank you for coming.